Hey, Boujee Besties. Welcome to another episode of Boujee Best Friend podcast. As I mentioned, this season, it's not really a season because I didn't start a new season, but this year I'm focusing on solo episodes and brand founders. And one of the brand founders I really was like dying to talk to was Christina Zilber. She founded Jouer. Jouer Cosmetics has been a staple in my beauty routine. And if you follow my makeup tutorials, you see that I'm applying their lip oil constantly. It is one of my favorite products they created. And I love the brand so much. I love her as a founder. And I am so happy to have the opportunity to chat with her on the podcast. She walked me through her entire story, how they started the brand. And what I loved about this conversation, that I feel like she was so open about the whole process, because a lot of brand founders are sugarcoating things and they're not really sharing how they got to a certain level, or they're acting as if everything is beautiful and life is just wonderful and things just fell into their lap. And what I really admire about her and their brand is they're very transparent and very direct. So I think you're gonna love this episode. I feel like I can just talk to her for days, and I just had a blast chatting with her. So if you are a brand founder, if you're an aspiring beauty entrepreneur, anything that comes to beauty, I just think she is a perfect episode to listen to. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Christina, welcome to Boujee Best Friend podcast.
Hello, happy to be here.
Okay, we've known each other for a very long time. We established, what is it, 2019, right?
Yeah, which feels like yesterday to me, but it's been forever.
It definitely does. I am a huge fan of Jouer. I pretty much know your brand story, but I want to go through the very beginnings because I know our audience loves listening from aspiring female entrepreneurs, and I really admire you. So let's start from the very beginning. Where did you grow up? Give me a little background.
Oh my, well, like the way beginning.
Oh yeah. Just like, you know why? I see that sometimes those little moments in your life kind of define where you go. And I know you used to be a model.
It's true.
Okay, so let's start with the modeling.
You know what? Even before then, we can go back to, I grew up in San Francisco, and my godmother used to give me for Christmas Estee Lauder they used to sell these like massive palettes like at Christmas time, and they had like, it was like gigantic with everything you could ever want inside of it. It must have been like $100 gift with purchase, something, I don't know. But every year I would get one of these and I was obsessed with it. And when I look back at my childhood, I mean, first of all, my mom was very instrumental. She was a model, and of teaching me about makeup and how to wear makeup and how to like cheat. When I was young, she was like, I don't want you to put highlighter on because highlighter is like, you're too young for highlighter, but just put a little baby oil. Like, she was like, just take baby oil and put it, on the tip of your nose, on your brow bone. She was instrumental in teaching me like tips and tricks, because in her day, back in the 1960s when she was modeling, you had to do your own makeup. There were not makeup artists on set. So she was just really savvy with that stuff, and then kind of passed that on to me. And I loved getting those Estee Lauder palettes. So it's kind of hilarious that this is what I do now, is makeup, but I was attracted to it.
Let's talk about the brand story, Jouer. So that is a French word, correct? Means to play. Yes. How did you come up with that?
So it's kind of a mistake in a way, because when you're starting a brand and you try to find a name, literally every single name is taken. I mean, everything has been trademarked, copyrighted, like there is nothing left. And I was married at the time to a French man, and we have these words that were on the wall that they come from a catalog called, they used to, I don't even know if they still carry them, Ballard, and you buy letters and you can put anything on your wall. People could put their kids' names or whatever. So I had the word jouer, which means to play, on the wall in this room. And it was like a playroom. So the word jouer, and I was married to a French man, so it just made sense. And as I kind of was sitting there looking, and I'd been turned down like 5 times for a name already, I just thought jouer makes perfect sense. I want women to feel like they can play with their makeup, but know that they're safe with it. Like, this is a brand that is going to give you the correct colors, the correct consistencies, the correct textures, that you can feel free to play within this sandbox and know that you're not going to look ridiculous. Because a lot of brands, they're going to give you just literally everything that's trending, everything that's out there, but you don't necessarily want to put all that on your face. So this is a safe place to play, but playing is the essential spirit of the brand.
Even though the brand is more on the luxury, high-end level, I would say, even though it is very simple. And what I love about your products is the colors are pretty much everything you need to use.
Yeah.
Sure, there might be a palette that's like fun and trendy, but the base of the brand is things that everybody can use. And as you said, people are not like intimidated. So can you talk a little bit about the brand identity and how did you come up with the brand itself, like the brand DNA?
Yeah. So the brand DNA really stems from being married to a French man, spending a lot of time in France. I've always been a Francophile. I speak French. And even though we're divorced, we are still very close. And I spent a lot of time with his family. Like we're just all very connected.
I love that.
But when I was in France and spending a lot of time in France, I really noticed that women spent a lot of time on their skincare. Skincare is huge in France. They don't wear a ton of makeup, but they'll wear a shimmer lip or a cobalt blue eye. They're very free in their expression with makeup, and I really loved that. And I wanted to express that, okay, we are good for your skin ingredients because that is like, kind of an ethos of France, but also to have fun, but not look like the makeup is wearing you. There's, it's just you're wearing the makeup. It's intentional. Your skin is showing through. You look beautiful. And that's really the DNA of the brand is this kind of this French aesthetic, but mixed with an LA lifestyle. So I am essentially an LA girl and we are very laid back and we are very casual and we like to be in the sun and we like to be outdoors and we are not fussy. And that's just, who LA is. So I really wanted to kind of combine the two and make this beautiful line.
Since you mentioned that you're in good terms still with your ex-husband, and my audience is a lot about, they love to listen about relationships and how to.
I love your relationship content. I really do.
Thank you. Do you have a tip for somebody who might be going through a separation or a breakup or a divorce? I know you also have a child. I also love your content with Emily. I love it, and she's so beautiful, like you as well. But how do you maintain that relationship? To have to like be cordial, but still you're hurt probably, like you're going through certain things.
Yes. So, a friend of mine gave me really good advice. Well, I have two children. I have a son. My son is less on social media, so he's just like a little smarty pants, doing his thing. Not that my daughter's not a smarty pants. She's a smarty pants and beautiful, but she's on social media, so people see her. And I had two young kids, and staying cordial was for them. It was ultimately the best choice for them. And I will say that the first couple of years were brutal because when you're single and you break up with somebody, you get to close the book and walk away. And it is the best feeling to be able, when you've made that decision, like you are like, clean, done. But when you have children, they're in your lives for the rest of your life.
Whether you like it or not.
Whether you like it or not. So you have got to at least have a good relationship with them, with their family. It's really important. So a girlfriend of mine, when I was first going through the divorce, she was like, when he is poking at you, when he's pushing your buttons, because nobody knows your buttons like your partner does, when he's pushing your buttons, you need to just put the Jackie O crown on and be Jackie O. Like, be the ultimate in diplomacy and detached, observe it. Just be like, in your head, you're like, I'm observing, he's pushing the button and not react. So it's really practicing that non-reaction and detachment, which is not always easy. And I was in therapy as well. Therapy is the best thing ever.
The best.
But just learning to understand. And it's something that I've carried on and taught my children. It's a mantra in our house is that other people's feelings, we're not in charge of other people's feelings. Other people can be upset, can be mad, can be angry. Doesn't have anything to do with us. We are only in charge of our own feelings and we are not responsible for their feelings. You can observe them, acknowledge them, but don't get sucked into them. So that was just what I learned going through that really tough period. And that led to us being able to have a cordial, friendly relationship.
I love that. And actually, as you were saying this, sometimes when I feel like I'm frustrated towards my boyfriend about something, it's maybe not his fault. Maybe I'm frustrated about something else.
We hate to admit it.
Yeah, I always hate to admit it.
We hate to admit it.
Yeah.
It takes two to tango. It takes two to tango. Yeah. So it's always understanding your part in it. And sometimes if they're angry with you, if they're frustrated with you, your part in it is just inflaming it in some way by denying it or something. It's just acknowledging like their frustration is enough sometimes to just diffuse it.
I love it. You're so right. So you were married to a French man. You started the brand a while back. Is 2004?
I started the ideation of it and kind of a limited, smaller version of the brand in 2004. But in 2008 is really when I launched the brand as it is today. We launched at Henry Bendel's. So I shopped it around. It was the three bigs at the time that you wanted to be in. One of them was Bendel's, Bergdorf's, or Barney's. I met with the three of them and presented my product, and Bendel's took it. And Bendel's was sort of known as being the place where indie brands want. It was such a great store. It's so sad. It's just so sad because it closed down. I'm not even sure what exactly happened, but it was in this beautiful old Fifth Avenue,
Midtown,
gorgeous building, and we had a little stall there. So I started it then, and retail at that time was challenging. It was 2008, and if you remember, you were probably in kindergarten, so who knows?
I was younger, but it was I know the crash, the market crash and all
exactly.
That,
so here I was, like, launched in New York at this great store, Bendel's, and then I was like, this is fantastic, and then all of a sudden it's like the tumbleweeds are blowing in, like, where is everybody? Everybody was like staying home. It was like nobody was shopping. It was a whole thing. So I leaned into e-com at that time. So I was like, I need to get my site going, because at that time, like, we weren't even really shopping online.
So you were saying you started at Henry Bendel's, and then how was that for you? I mean, after the 2008, like, it was crashing,
it was tough.
You moved to online.
We really decided to focus online. And it's so funny because at the time, blogging was really a thing. So people would write their weekly blogs. And so we were sort of leaning into that kind of content on the website. At that same kind of time, maybe like 2009, 2010, we went into Birchbox. Birchbox was one of those subscription box, exactly. And that really put us on the map in the beauty business, because just being in Henry Bendel's was not enough to kind of get you, any kind of like visibility, but Birchbox really did. And I had made these little mini sized, it was a mistake. I made these tinted moisturizers in minis, thinking that people like me who are obsessed with traveling would buy a set of minis, because why would you want to bring the full size when you can bring a mini? And nobody bought them. So they were just kind of sitting on the shelf, and, these things have a shelf life. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. And I got a call from this subscription box, this girl, Katya, who's, was the head of it, didn't even know she said I was like one of the first brands that said yes. She was sitting in a Starbucks. Now she was like mega. It became such a big company, but she was like, I was sitting in Starbucks in Boston, and it was a startup. And I was like, do you have any samples? And I was like, actually, yes, I have a lot. So we put those in the box, and then put that product on the map. And like that product ended up winning the Allure's Best of Beauty, and just became like one of the hero products of the brand.
This is so fascinating because as you said, it was a mistake at that time, but then that mistake kind of blew up the brand. Can you speak more on that? And do you have any other examples where something kind of went wrong? I mean, you also kind of mentioned with the name, everything was taken, then you got Jouer.
It's kind of a mistake. I will say two things on that. One is, I literally had a team meeting yesterday, and I said, we're trying something new on our Instagram, which is a little bit different. It's not, I said to the team, like, I've opened Instagram lately, and our engagement hasn't been what it used to be. And I'm like, I open up and I look at all the competitive brands, like if you take lip balm, you look at Ole Henriksen, you look at Summer Fridays, you look at all of, Laneige, all of the brands, put them all together. They all look the same. Everybody's doing the same thing. And I'm like, you've got to stand out. So I was explaining something that I want to do for an upcoming launch. And there was a little bit of pushback at one person kind of had a little pushback, like, that's not really on brand. And I'm like, the truth of the matter is that we're here to make mistakes. We're going to make mistakes. Like, well, I'm giving you all permission to make mistakes, because there's no way we're going to learn what works and what doesn't if we don't put our foot forward and trip on it and then say, okay, that worked. We did something the other day where we're starting to put little memes on our stories, and our view count, if I can tell you, I don't even know what the word is for the difference. Like, it's not tenfold, thousandfold, tens of thousands fold more viewers on that story. So we've been testing it a little bit more.
Because they were sending it to each other. They were sending it to their friends. That's
exactly right. That's exactly right. And, we have to be able to make mistakes in order to grow. I mean, we don't learn really by winning. We learn by making mistakes. So I'm the queen of mistakes, and I allow mistakes in my company because
I love that.
That's how we're going to grow.
I have so many questions for you. Okay, let's talk about your team. When you were first starting off, can you
Yeah.
walk me through that process? Like, it was you? Did you have somebody who was helping
There was
you?
three. There was three of
Okay.
us. So I'll tell you, when I first started, I had an idea for the brand that had been brewing inside of me for 2 or 3 years. So that just tells you if it's living inside of you, you've got an idea and it really is living inside of you. That means it's got some purpose. You've got
It's
to
there
see
for a
it.
reason.
It's there for a reason. And I used to talk about this idea in the makeup business. There were makeup palettes that existed and they had colors already in there in the palette. And like, because there's also this other part of me that's obsessed with traveling and packing, that I loved the idea of traveling or packing with one palette to save, instead of having to carry a huge bag. But there
I
was
love your
always the
packing
wrong.
videos, by the way. Sometimes when you travel, you post like, "This is
I
how I
do.
pack." I love those. I
Yeah.
save those because I'm a bad packer.
Oh my
Please
gosh, I
continue.
love
Yeah.
packing. I'm actually going to write a book on packing. I'm obsessed.
Please,
I'm definitely
please.
going to do it.
Yeah.
But so the idea of the makeup palettes always intrigued me, but there were always the wrong colors inside, or like there was like the purple eyeshadow you would never wear or whatever. It's
Yeah.
like I just wanted what I want, and there's never concealer in the palette. So the idea that I had was to create a customized palette where you can click together. I actually have two pieces with me. This was sort of like the inspiration. I don't know if you remember these, but
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
pieces slide together back to back, slide together side to side. They continue to grow, and then they have pegs on the back so that you can put them together
Connect them.
in sort of like connecting like Legos. And so the idea was there, but I didn't know how to execute it. I wasn't in the beauty business at all. I was a model. I knew a lot about makeup. I collected makeup. I had this idea, and I ended up speaking to somebody, and she was like, I have a friend who just resigned from working at Lorac, a brand that was kind of big back then. And she knows a lot about packaging. Let's have a conversation with her. This sounds interesting. And then I spoke with her, and this woman said, I hear ideas all the time, but this is actually different. And when something is different, because a lot of people are going to say, like, I want to start a lipstick line, but okay, what's different
What
about it?
innovation are you? Yeah.
What innovation? Exactly. Was actually like kind of a little bit different. And she said, I know some people in the packaging world that just these young kids that just won an award at FITM, and it was an award they won for packaging for a CD, like a compact. People are like, "What's a CD?" But
I have a lot of CDs. I was a collector
good.
at some point. CD collector, Britney Spears.
We're showing
and all
our
that.
age. You're not that old. Anyway, Britney Spears, exactly. Oh my God, Paula Abdul. I used to have all of my whole CD collection. But anyway, they won an award for designing a CD package, but they wanted to get into the cosmetics business. So they were like, we'll design this idea that you have for free, and we will make an SLA. An SLA is basically like now, what are those printers called? Like a 3D printer?
Like a 3D printer, yeah.
Yeah, back then it was called an SLA, and it was like $200, $300 or something to get, this SLA compact. But that was how I started the brand, and was really with this woman that was like, I'm going to help you bring this to fruition. She knew somebody at Sephora. I flew up to Sephora in San Francisco, presented it, and they said, we will carry this. If you make it, we will carry it. So that was sort of the go-ahead of, yes. I ended up pulling out of Sephora because that wasn't the right place for us. Like, listen, I've been down that road twice. Unless you are fully financed and prepared to execute on a Sephora
level.
yeah, it's really difficult. But that was sort of the impetus to start the brand. Like, yes, this has legs. People like this idea. Let's go for it.
Let's talk about retail for a bit, because with COVID, everything changed. As we mentioned, like shopping online, it's huge. But at the same time, sometimes if you don't have a retail presence, people might not know you if maybe your marketing is not right. If your SEO is like, if maybe you're just not reaching the right people. So how do you decide going into retail? And as you said, it's tough to maybe stay in retail. So if you can talk about the retail experience, if somebody maybe is starting a brand and they're thinking of, oh, maybe everybody has this goal. Everybody wants to be in Sephora. But then how do you stay relevant in Sephora?
So hard. So, I mean, I would say that's not the first goal. The first goal is to find your audience, because your audience is not going to find you at Sephora. There's way too much competition on that floor. You have to find your own audience. So, that's always the challenge. If I were giving advice to somebody who wanted to start a line, I would say start really small, because as a line, I've got so many SKUs, so many different products in the line, that when a retailer wants to buy into it, how are they going to afford? Retailers have budgets as well. Like, they're not all flush with money, ready to buy anything. Like, they also are like, you have 150 items in your line. That's too big, because just to buy into that, that's going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is maybe an investment they don't
And they
want to
have to
take,
buy
or
the
risk.
whole line? Can they maybe like pick and
Not
choose
always.
sometimes?
They can pick and choose, but let's say you have concealers and you've got 20, like we have 25 shades of concealer. We,
Yeah.
like that right there is 25 SKUs right there. So they're not going to only pick 5 colors.
Yeah.
Though they do often do that. They will leave out a bunch of colors, which is really tough on the brand. I will tell you, that's a whole other story. I could write a book on retail, but
I'll buy that one too. Retail
oh
and
my
packing.
God, retail and packing. It's a double. It's like it's a sequel.
Yeah.
But I think that if I were to tell somebody who's starting a line, I would say like start really edited. If you have a skincare is so much easier in the retail sense of, you can be put on a shelf. You don't take up a ton of space. You can have a cleanser, a moisturizer, a balm, whatever. It's going to take this much space. Makeup takes a massive amount of space, and you have to basically make a certain dollar per square foot. So they don't just give that to you for free. You have to be turning over that. So every single inch in Sephora has a dollar amount that you have to be making in return. If you're not bringing in people, if they're not buying that product, you're not going to get that space. So it's a very difficult, bridge to cross when you have a large selection. So start small. If you're skincare, if you're makeup, just like have your limited little products and go try to reach as many people as possible.
You mentioned that you need to find your audience. I remember when we met back in 2019, I was a makeup artist, and that was like my full-time job, and I was obsessed with beauty and makeup tutorials. Like, I was living and breathing makeup. But before I was even in that industry, I was a social media consumer, and I remember every influencer I was following had your product. And I know that they were just genuinely loving the product, and they were sharing about, their favorite product.
Yeah.
So you were such an influencer forward brand at some point, but then you kind of changed, right?
Yeah.
I would love to learn about that.
It's so funny. When I look back at 2014, 15, it was like the dawn of that era, really the baby era. I used to hear all the time, Miss Glamour, was her name Glamorazzi? I can't remember. Ingrid. Her name was Ingrid, but I can't remember her YouTube name. But people would come into the store, into Bendel's, and they'd say, "Oh, I'm buying this tinted moisturizer because Miss Glamorazzi told me." And I was like, "Who is this Miss Glamorazzi?" I had no idea what that was. Cut to, I was doing HSN. And I ended up meeting, who went on to become one of my closest friends, went on to meet this young girl who was on HSN. She was the blogging expert. She was like a YouTuber. She lived in Tampa. So she would come on to HSN and talk about trends. So in between segments, she would talk about highlighters are going to be big in the fall or whatever. So we meet in the hallway. I said, "I like your blouse." And she's like, "I love your highlighter. In fact, I heard Desi Perkins speaking about your highlighter." And I was like, "Who?" I had no idea who she was. This is like 2015. And she's like, "Desi Perkins, like, you need to pay attention." And I was like, I really don't know who that is. And she's like, "There's a whole world you're not tapping into." So we ended up having dinner there, and I hired her on the spot, basically. I mean, we had dinner a couple of times every time I came back, but I was like, "Listen, you need to fly out to Los Angeles and teach my team." And at this time I had a PR company. The PR company didn't know anything about these people. She was like, "Here's who you need to meet and get your product into the hands of." So she walked a show with me. I think it was like Gen Beauty or something. She walked some trade show with me, and she was grabbing people, because back then, if you were on YouTube and they were on YouTube, you were immediately buddies. So she was kind of buddies with all of these people, not really knowing them, but hey, Manny and Laura and Jackie and literally everybody. She knew who to find. And so I ended up throwing a dinner at my house after Gen Beauty, and I invited all these people to my house. And I had this dinner and I just gave them product. And it was like starting that relationship. That was how that all started. Like to this day, I credit Nur. She built us an affiliate program. We got all of them in, just selling the products, making a commission. That was sort of the thing back then. But then I will say that, and that really worked out incredibly well for us. I think that put us on the map 2016, 17. 18,
That's when
it
I
started
was
to
the
change.
consumer, and I remember I was following all of those makeup artists, and I was just so
Yeah.
impressed with their work. And I was always looking, I
Yeah.
always saw Jouer in their hands. So I was very
Yeah.
interested. How did you do that? But I love this.
That was sort of how I did it. But then I think what happened is a lot of those people started their own brands. It became, and also then everybody caught on to the influencer like racket. And they started sponsoring things. So every post was sponsored. And then what happens is when an influencer is like oversaturated and they're doing too many sponsored posts, they just lose their
Credibility.
authenticity and their credibility. Exactly. So I think there was just a natural shift right around like right before the pandemic, like 2019, like when I was doing this, I say it like the traveling roadshow, like I was going to New York or Houston or Miami or whatever, and just trying to meet with people in those areas, support Sephora, because at that point we had relaunched in Sephora, and trying to like kind of get people aware of the brand. It all sort of shifted, and then the pandemic hit. So it was just like this crazy time of now we're at home and we have to make content at home, and
Yeah.
yeah.
It was such a weird time. But I love how involved you are with the brand. A lot of brand founders are, just they started a company, maybe at some point they just, start doing different things. And I love how you are also sharing tutorials and videos, because people love to see that. And I think that's why people are still obsessed with your brand, because it just has, they feel that you are so in it. And interesting about all these influencers nowadays, how do you even decide who you gift? Because you're sending a PR package to somebody and there's 1,000 influencers every single day
10,000
on TikTok.
10,000,
Yeah.
100,000.
How do you decide?
It's I'm telling you, it's so challenging. Like it is not easy. And I ended up hiring somebody for the first time ever, really, to hire somebody who is in charge of influencers for the brand. I just felt like it was somebody, you need somebody who's doing that all day long. They're literally searching. We have massive spreadsheets. If we send to somebody like 3 times and they don't talk about us, they're off the list. Like we're not sending to them anymore. I get people saying, "Well, you stopped sending to me." And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, well, that's because you stopped talking about us.
Well,
But we just don't-
I tag this lip oil every time. So
I love
I'm
it.
happy
Thank
to
you.
get it.
Oh my God. Thank
It is
you.
honestly the best.
But we don't have an unlimited budget. It's like
Yeah, of course.
mailings are really expensive. They are a drain on the company, just the postage, because sending a box, it's like it's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah.
So it has to matter. So we're just really careful about just constantly shifting that list. Who's talking about us? Who isn't? Who do we want to get in their hands? And maybe the 3rd time or the 4th time, sometimes we're persistent. We're like, let's give it to her. That it just happens all the time. Sometimes we'll send out like merch. We'll send out like a sweatshirt or a baseball cap. Then all of a sudden they're wearing that. It's like the entryway. What is their entryway? Then we're like, oh my God, then maybe they're going to try. So it's like, it's just a constant culling and shifting.
Something I know you've done before, I don't know if you still do it, but you kind of tested out some product names or like color names on your socials. Can you speak on that? And I think that's a brilliant strategy.
We do that often. I mean, I want to say not often enough, but we definitely do that. In fact, yesterday again with the team, when we were talking about mistakes, we want to bring something back, and we're going to pick, 100 people. Some that are influencers, some that are just customers, that are loyal customers, and we're going to send them 2 samples and say, you pick, like, let us know what you want. It's really important to get customer feedback. I will ask all the time. I've been on a mascara. We're formulating a mascara right now. So I've been a lot talking about, what are your favorite mascaras? Like everybody tell me, what are your favorites? What kind of brush do you like? Like I want to get all the information.
Can I tell you something that is really important for me when I'm using mascaras?
Yes.
There's a few brands that have something in their formula that you can wash off while you're like just with water when you're taking a shower.
I love that.
I know Thrive Cosmetics has that.
It's tube mascaras.
Okay. I don't know the terminology.
The ones that you just pull them off.
I love that because when I'm doing I don't really wear a lot of makeup every day. So like when I'm washing my face and if I have this like giant black stain, it's so hard to
Raccoon
rub.
eyes.
Yeah.
It's the
Like
worst. Yes.
tubing. Okay. I didn't know that's a term. How do you decide? Like, is this are you sharing too much with the audience? Are you not sharing
I
enough? Is there
know.
like a fine line or?
It's so funny. It changes all the time. And I think sometimes back in the day, like in 2016, 17, there was such a frenzy over makeup. Like you couldn't share anything, you couldn't show it. And also, you don't want brands. If you show something too soon, there's
Mm-hmm.
going to be a brand that's going to come in and like
Mm-hmm. Copy.
undercut you. I always like to think I'm very like innovative in my products. I have a lot of innovative products and I don't want to just show it too soon, you know?
When it comes to your team, let's go back to the beginnings. You said you it was the
Yeah.
three of you. And how did you then decide like when to hire somebody? Because obviously when you were starting off, you have limited budget. So like are you gonna
Yeah.
spend it on inventory, on branding, or on hiring somebody? How do you make those decisions?
I mean, I didn't hire somebody for inventory until like 5 years in. Like
Mm-hmm.
I honestly don't ask me. I have no idea. To this day, I
I love
swear to you, I'm just like, okay, let's do that. I don't know.
it.
I have people in my life who have mentored me and I can go to for advice. I think finding mentors is so important.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want everybody. Sometimes I get a lot of emails. I mean, a lot of DMs about like, I'm starting a line. What should I do? And I'm like, I can't. I'm like literally so busy. I can't mentor everybody,
Mm-hmm.
but like I mentor people when I can.
When you can, yeah.
But find your mentors. I mean, the best kind are people like sometimes people will say to me like, listen, I want to take. I'm going to ask you 10 minutes of your time. I want to take you for a coffee. It's literally not going to be more than 10 minutes. Say that. And then have your questions ready. Like that, those are and then follow up and let me know,
Mm-hmm.
like your answers really helped me. I did A, B, C, whatever. Those are the best kind of like approaches when you just like randomly like spill like a vomit of information about your product that you're launching in a big long
Mm-hmm.
DM. I don't have the time. And I delete it.
Mm-hmm.
But just if you're super friendly and be like, can I take 10 minutes of your time? I'd love to take you for a coffee, or I'd love to just jump on a quick call.
Mm-hmm.
Like that means more to me than that.
I have to say, I get a lot of DMs, but it's, a lot of relationship troubles. And
Yeah.
sometimes they go all the way. Like 5 years ago when we met, he sent me this text and he sent me that text. And as you said, like when it's so long, I get anxiety even just like opening the message. I'm just like, just get to the point. Just tell me what happened. Tell me the problem today. So, I mean,
Yeah,
I just sometimes I ignore. I can't. It's a lot.
people need to edit themselves. They don't
Yeah.
understand.
Let's talk about your role as a founder. How,
Yeah.
like, when you handle, as you said, mistakes or maybe even criticism, or if you get pushback from your team, how do you,
Yes.
when do you listen to yourself, or when do you, if you hire somebody, let's say
Ooh.
for the influencer marketing, how do you like, okay, I hired them because they're an expert, but you're like, but I think you
Yes.
should do this way. So how do
Yeah.
you decide?
There's so many thoughts in my head about that because ultimately I find my instinct always wins. My instinct
Mm-hmm.
is always correct. Unfortunately, with making mistakes, like I've learned, like should have listened to my gut, should have learned my instinct. Like it is so important to listen to your instinct. But as a brand founder, I will say that it's sometimes a problem, but it's also good. I don't know. It's a little bit of a two-way sword. Is that when you hire somebody and you're the founder, ultimately they're going to say yes to you because you're the
Mm-hmm.
boss. Many times, if we are formulating something and I'm like, okay, here's this pencil. I want everybody on the team to have this pencil. I want everybody to try this pencil, to travel with this pencil, to put this pencil in their bag, to use this pencil. I want everybody to tell me like, what do you really think about this pencil? Do we really, I'm very democratic in the way that I take feedback because also as somebody, I don't want some people on my team to be selling something and working hard on something that they don't believe in. If they don't believe in it, then they're not going to have the heart and soul for
Yeah.
it. So it's really a lot of it is a group effort. Like I ideate something, I also need to convince people. I mean, this is a perfect example. I have this like slugging balm. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
you've ever tried the slugging balm. It's
No.
ridiculous. Okay, I need to send this to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Luminize. It's a slugging balm. So this is an
Mm-hmm.
eye balm.
Okay.
And when I wanted to make this, it's like an eye cream. The typical product is an eye cream, but I was like, I don't want an eye cream. I literally, because once again, going back to my mother used to tell me to put Vaseline under my eyes at night. She was like, this is like the best moisturizer you could ever use is put Vaseline under your eyes. And I did that for years. I literally think that I have less wrinkles under my eyes because I did that for so,
I love that.
since the
Maybe
time
I
I
should
was like,
add that to my routine.
well, now I wouldn't do that. You can add this to your add this
I'll add it,
because
yeah.
that's made with petroleum. I'm not really into the petroleum, even though that's debatable. But you could put Aquaphor under your eyes. But slugging became a thing, like during the pandemic, where you're like putting Vaseline all over your face. And I was like, we can do this so much better. So I wanted to make this product. It was probably 2020. It was 2020 when I started talking about this. And I was like, I want to make this product. It's not going to be like a normal eye cream. It's going to be much thicker. It's going to be heavier. It's going to be like a Vaseline. Only we're going to make it with ingredients that are brightening under the eyes. It's got vitamin K. It's got caffeine. It's like, this is actually going to be doing something while it's also locking in moisturizer and like hydrating your skin. The pushback, there was somebody on my team, she's no longer there, but she was just so against it. Like, nobody is going to buy that. It, like,
Well,
it's
no
gonna
wonder
cost...
she's not on the team anymore. God bless her.
God bless her. God bless her. She was really against it, and it puts me on the spot. But you know what put me on the spot? Because then I'm going to defend it, and I'm going to. If I can't defend it, then it's not worth making. It's like I always say: if I'm not going to make it, defend it, and like root for it, it is not worth putting in the line because it's too hard. It's too difficult. Like, this business is so difficult that if you're not going to fully believe in something, it's just not worth it.
Okay, I have two questions here. One is, when you have an idea, so you have an idea about a product and what is the process step by step? So first you're like, okay, I want this formula or I want this, like, can you walk me through also when you're creating a product, sometimes it takes so long to develop it. So can you just walk us through that?
Yeah. I mean, like this one I started in 2020 and it didn't launch until 2023. And sometimes longer. I have this skin barrier cream that is also like ridiculous. It is so good. I think I started this in 2018 or 2019. It didn't launch until 2023. Just to tell you, it fell out of stability. Like, there's a whole process. But let's just say, back to the pencil. I want to make this pencil, but let's say I have a pencil. And I'm like, this pencil, it breaks on me every time I use it, or it's so uncomfortable on my fingers. You have to start with what doesn't work and then how you're going to make it better. This is how like my process works. So if it's a lip product, if it's an eye product, whatever it is, it's like, I can do better. So what are those steps to make it better? Maybe if you were even just not even making it better, you're like, I'm going to make a lipstick. I like this formula. Let's say this is a like Dior lip balm. I like this formula, but like they have the worst colors ever. But and I also think it stinks. Like, I mean, Estee Lauder, sometimes I'm like, what are they putting cleaning fluid in there? Like, why does it smell so bad? Not that I want to talk badly about another brand, but like, so you're going with like a list of like must-haves. Like, it must have this quality in this ingredient in this whatever, and then you go to a lab. So labs are very literal. You need to bring them like, I want this color barrel, I want this formula, but it needs to have this scent. The more you can give them, because they're very literal. But so I just was at the Makeup in LA show. That's a show where manufacturers come and set up booths, and you can just sit. Anybody can come. If you wanted to start a product line, you can just go. You just set up an appointment with these people. They're happy to meet you. They show you what they make. When you start to figure out like, oh, this lab is really good with skincare. This lab is really good with pressed, powders. This lab is good with pencils, then you could go, okay, I'm going to work with this lab, and then here's what I want to do. And that's sort of the process.
When you're starting a new product and maybe you're not really sure, is this going to sell? If it's not going to sell, maybe you just want to test it out. How do you decide on the minimum order quantity?
Yes, it's getting worse and worse. It's just getting worse and worse because, back in the day when I first started, it was, you could do something at a 2,000 minimum run. Now it's up to 5,000 or 10,000. So most of the time it's 5 or 10,000. I was talking to somebody yesterday about minimums, and she's like, you can basically get anything on Alibaba. But you just have to be really careful about where you manufacture. Like, I don't do that. Like, I have to use reputable labs, and usually going back to Estee Lauder, which is a really formidable brand, and they have a lot of brands within the umbrella of Estee Lauder. If an Estee Lauder brand is at that lab, you know that lab has been vetted because it's a
Yeah.
public company and there are certificates, and you know that that's a reputable lab.
If somebody's starting off
Yeah.
and maybe they're like, obviously they don't have the finances to
Yeah.
go to a very expensive lab, or like, how do you decide? Also, if you can,
Listen,
if, yeah,
go if you're starting. I have these young kids that I mentored. They were so cute. They were just out of college, and Donald Trump had just won. Not to get too political, but Donald Trump had just won, and they were really pissed. They were like, "I'm not okay with this." So they started a brand called Hello Lip Slut, and their first color, the shade was called Fuck Trump. Okay, so like they're hilarious, but they literally ordered on Alibaba, and they were like it's a 2-week turnaround. They found a liquid lipstick and they did it. And there's low minimums. They ordered like 200 or, there's low minimums, and they were able to like launch their brand that way. And they were able to set up stalls basically at markets, and like they ended up taking off. Like, I don't know if they're still in existence because this was a number of, like now 8 years ago, but they were on Pop Sugar. They were all bustle all over the place because they were like super
I'm gonna
marketable,
Google that.
You know what I mean?
That's definitely gonna show up on my
100%. And I mean, they were hilarious. Like, they were just really funny with their marketing stuff. And I wanted to mentor them because I think they were just like these young kids that had a really like disruptive idea, and it was really cute. And like, they would come to the office and I would give them advice. But yeah, you can do low minimums. I don't want you to build your brand on subpar quality products, but I think as a way to test, completely fine. Get your first 500 customers, see what you can get from that, and then build from there and go ahead and save the money and go for the bigger run, the 2,000 run or the 5,000 run.
What would you say is a cost that people that are not founders usually don't anticipate? Is it the packaging? Is it the labels? Is it like something that people don't really think is as expensive as it is?
I think that it's so deceptive that every single thing costs. So if this pencil costs $2, and then like the box it goes in costs $1, and then the cost to warehouse it, the cost to ship it, the cost to market it, it is insane. It's impossible to make a profit. Like, it is just, you don't even understand how every little thing. I think shipping is just one of the most expensive, and now everybody expects free shipping.
Yeah.
Everybody expects free shipping. So nobody's going to pay like $7 for the shipping. And so you have to carry that cost. It's just, it's all really, really expensive. I cannot even put it on one thing because it's just like the entire makeup of it is so expensive.
Let's talk about the beauty industry today. And obviously it's crazy saturated. How do you even, as we were saying, like the feeds look the same. Things just look so similar because at some point it's like, okay, this is the current aesthetic, but then like maybe you want to do something different. What do you see right now? Like do you have any trend predictions? Like, what do you see where is the beauty industry today?
I don't, I think I'm better with fashion trends than I am with beauty trends, as weird as that is. But I do think everything looks the same and everything is saturated. I think that celebrity brands sort of took over and they have an audience. When I say find your audience, because the audience is the most important. If you have people willing to listen to you and buy your products, that is everything. And that is also why I'm on social media and I am in constant communication with my followers, because they are the like diehards, and I love them so much. We get each other, there's like definitely a like relationship symbiosis. But I think,
like, how do you stand out nowadays?
I think you have to niche down, really niche down. And, I was listening to a podcast with these girls and I just was so impressed with them. It's called 4 a.m. Skin. And I guess they're big on TikTok. And their whole story is basically hangover skincare. And I'm like, genius, because nobody's done that. They were saying that like,
Google them too.
4 a.m. Yeah, no, Google them because I just think it's really smart, They were like, this one girl was really into skincare and they were going out and partying every night, and all of her friends were like, what skincare should I use? And she was giving them these 10-step Korean skincare things, and they were like, I skipped 7 of those steps, I'm sorry, it was out till like 3 a.m. And their whole brand was basically founded on like, what are you doing when you're like, you come home and you're like, what's the basic thing? I just thought that was genius. But yeah, so niching down, and for us, we're about to enter into a new phase in our like socials, Instagram, like our visuals
Can you
are going to
share
look a little bit
something,
different.
or is it like
I want to say that's just less professional. It's just much less professional. That like really fancy shot of like the product with the drip coming down that's professionally shot. That's fine for our product pages on the website, but for socials, we're just going to get a little bit more down and dirty. And like I said, we're adding memes into our, if you look at our stories, you're going to catch some pretty funny things happening over there, but like it's fast, and nobody's going to see it. Nobody's talking about it. We're just trying to be a little bit subversive, stand out a little bit more, because you just cannot do the same thing everybody's doing.
What do you think about brands that are maybe trying to be like a little provocative or something that's like eye-catching? I remember I forget the brand name, but there was this brand that was only clothing, and then they launched a footwear line. And one of their taglines or slogans was, "We wanted to touch your feet." So I was like, that's a little interesting. Yeah.
I like it. You know what I say? Do it. Like, absolutely. We have one shade called Ménage à Trois, and because it's a 3-in-1, and we're like, I think we can even push. I'm always trying to push the team. Like, do it. Be provocative. It's funny. It's playful. Once again, it goes back to Jouer. Jouer is play to play. Like, it's okay to play. I think a lot of times we play it safe, and as long as you're not insulting anyone.
Yeah.
The foot fetish people of the world unite. I don't know.
They probably love that campaign. I forget even what brand that was, but I know it was.
Funny.
I was like, wow, that's so cool.
We look at Reformation. Their socials are really fun. Like, we're paying attention to them. Like, I think their socials are really fun. Their subject lines are fun. They're playful, and I think that stands out.
Where do you get your inspiration from, or like when you're even creating the product names or taglines, slogans? How does that work?
Yeah.
So
obviously I'm very influenced by France. So I'm always looking to French magazines. Francify it, exactly. What's the French name? Jolie, like you're wearing the color Jolie.
Yeah.
So France obviously is a great inspiration for me. I for some reason am like, one of my superhero talents is finding trends before they happen. Like, it's just I cannot explain it. I don't know why.
Write a book about that too. I'll buy it. How to find a trend before it happens.
It's the weirdest thing. I think that's just the instinct. I see patterns. Maybe it's because I see patterns. I just see patterns. Like, I can't explain that, but I do. And now I have to trust that instinct, because I'm like, I will tell the team something. I'm like, this is going to be really big. And then like 4 or 5 months later, it's like exploding. And I'm like, we should have added that bow. Well, we should have added that little cute pink bow. I was like, oh no. I think coquette is a really big. I also think themes are going faster and faster than ever before. So I think they're spiraling really fast. But I do think that the 1980s and Y2K are having a moment. When I think coquette is having a moment right now.
Mob Wife is having a moment right now.
Mob Wife, obviously,
Sopranos,
having a moment.
Yeah.
Sopranos. I spend a lot of time devouring social media. I have a young daughter, so she's 21, and
that's a great audience. I mean, she's like telling you what's going on in their world.
100%. I'm like, I'm asking her 50 questions a day. What do you think of this? Who do you like, do you know this person? Whatever. But she'll like tell me and show me. And, I follow some of her friends. They are like literally the coolest people ever. So I look at their accounts and I'm like, that's trending. Like, that look is trending. They're all going to the thrift stores. Like, what are they wearing? What are they like? They're more streetwear, but like, it's just like, they're so on it because they're young, and I just think you lose that. By the time you're like 30, it's like you're you're just a step away from that. You're just, I want a nap.
I need a nap as well. I have just a few more questions. If you were starting over, and a lot of founders say they don't have any regrets, they don't have any, like, they did everything.
Kidding.
I don't know how.
They're
I have so
lying.
many regrets in my life.
They're lying. They're
Yeah.
lying. I listened to a podcast once on Drunk Elephant, the woman who started Drunk Elephant, and like she sold her company for like $1 billion. So God bless her. Off
Yeah.
she went, you know. And she was one of those people that like she was on this podcast and she's like, nobody, I've never had a bad employee. An employee has never left me. Like literally everything worked out. Everything from start to
Yeah.
finish. And I'm like, what magic drink did she drink before she started her brand that she never made a mistake? She never hired like mishired, whatever.
Yeah.
No, exactly. I'm like, I think my biggest regret was if knowing the brand that I have today is I probably should have hired better early on. I think that you are who you surround yourself with. And because I've always been sort of like just cobbling together this brand as I go, like, okay, you know, I never hired a proper president or, you know, just somebody with knowledge of the business to sort of guide me. It was all like, I was always just like, oh, okay, like that's going to happen. Let's do it. As opposed to like, well, what is that going to cost? And, you know, just having all of that knowledge, I think. Not that that's easy to do when you're starting out, but like, once again, find the mentors. I think I didn't find the mentors. I just assumed like you make a pretty product and then everybody wants it. And it just doesn't work like that at all.
Usually the way I like when I'm talking to founders, I want to like ask entrepreneur like any advice for young entrepreneurs, but I think this is like a perfect advice. Just like sometimes I guess you have to invest in order to grow your company, and maybe you're not ready for that risk. I don't know. It's so hard. Hiring is so hard, and even for myself, for like my social media, I have like a little team. And it was so hard to find people that are actually going to understand what I want and understand my aesthetic and my brand and all of that. So if you have any like tips when it comes to hiring somebody early, is there any qualities you're looking for?
Yeah. I mean, listen, when you're a small brand, it's really important to hire people who know how to be scrappy and get and work. Like if you hire somebody who's a president, who was the president of like even a small brand, like they probably didn't do a lot of that work themselves. You know, they had people doing the work. You want people I mean, I've hired from big brands before. I've hired from, you know, brands like Benefit where there's like a couple of hundred employees. And when you hire from those brands, the people don't have the experience of like, you know, when I'm hiring somebody who's an influencer and PR, like she's the whole show. You know, she does all the work. She's reaching out to the influencers. She's having lunch with them. She's creating lists. She's setting up the mailing. She's managing Shop My or whatever. It's like you got to do all the jobs. So usually when they've come from a big company, they have not done all the jobs. They've done a really micro job and they've never made a decision on their own because they've always had to seek approval from somebody above them. So I would say like coming from a small company is ideal because they know how to like roll up their sleeves and work hard. But I do want to say there are platforms right now, I can't think of any off the top of my head, that are like you can actually speak to, I'm gonna have to try and find the name of that. You can speak to experts. Like my friend Katie Welch is the
is it like it's not like masterclass or something like that? Something similar.
No, but
to
that's
that.
Masterclass is great, but no, this is actually where you can like pay a couple
I think
$100.
I know that app. I think they target me a lot. I think it's like Into or something like that.
Yes, that's it.
Something like that.
Something like that. Exactly.
I'll find it.
So my friend Katie is on that app, and she is the chief marketing officer of Rare Beauty. So she's just, you know, killing it and mega. And you can sit and have a 2-hour conversation with her or an hour conversation with her. You just have to pay for it. But it's like, but you don't have to hire her. She's going to tell you where, you know, look, I'm launching this little thing. Where should I go? She's going to tell you. You can get expert advice. And I would definitely say seek expert advice. And don't just take her one advice. Find a couple of people because you're just going to get the best information.
I usually end every interview with the same question, which is what piece of advice would you give to your younger self?
Stress less. Go easy on yourself.
Love that.
You know, I don't want to look back on my life. I mean, I've had a lot of sleepless nights, and when you really take a step back and think about what value like you have in the world, it has nothing to do with like your success or your business. It really has to do with like how do you love and who loves you. I know that sounds super corny, but like those are the
But it's
things
true.
that really like bring you the peace in life, and go being out in nature and just taking care of yourself. Like that's what really matters. So I would just, if I could look back and be like, calm down, girl, like you're okay, relax, it's all gonna be okay.
I love that. I think I saw a quote recently where it was like, if you, God forbid, die and you
Yeah.
work at a company, your desk is going to be replaced in what, a week or two. But your family is always, your family, your friends, they're always going to like carry that void.
Yes.
So like I think
that's
we all
beautiful.
have to, I even just, it's so funny that you just said that advice, like stress less. I posted a video yesterday about this, like stress less. And like, if it's not going to matter in 5 years, you shouldn't stress more than 5 minutes about it, because we all
I
stress
love that.
so much.
Yeah.
Like I'm constantly stressed and I have to like remind myself that like things are not so serious. So
Things are not so serious. Exactly. We think they are. We build them up in our head, but what's serious like is our relationship with our family and our friends.
yeah.
And
I mean, if you think about 5 years ago, what were you stressing about? Like sure,
No
maybe
idea.
there was a few big things, but like random things on a daily basis you're
Totally.
stressing about today, they're so
Totally.
forget about them. Can we do a little giveaway for our listeners? I would love them to
I would
try the
love
products.
that. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So, Boujee Besties, what you have to do is go to Boujee Best Friend Instagram. You have to follow Jouer on Instagram and leave a comment. Tell me what was your favorite part of the episode. What did you learn? Just give me something. Give me some kind of feedback on our conversation, and then we're gonna.
Maybe
pick
we
some
should have a
really cool-
secret word.
Oh yeah, what's it? Okay, let's pick one.
Banana.
It's not Jouer because that's the name brand. That was like the first thing. Maybe play. Should we do play?
Yeah.
Okay.
Use play in a sentence. Use play in a sentence.
Okay. I love that. Christina, please share, where can people find you? Where can they buy the products?
I'm on socials at czjouer or jouercosmetics.com. Jouer Cosmetics has an Instagram as well. We are on Jouer Cosmetics. We are on Amazon. We are on Beautylish and a bunch of other retailers. But you can find all those retailers on jouercosmetics.com.
I'm going to link everything in the show notes. And again, this was such a amazing conversation. I'm so happy we did this.
Too.
You've been on my list for a long time.
I never say yes to these things, but because it was you, I was
oh
like,
my
I
God.
love you. You're just so fun to watch.
So flattered. Thank you.
I love you. I love meeting you in person, and then I've loved following you, and just seeing your journey has been incredible. And you're so fun and funny.
That means so much. I'm going to start blushing now. Thank you again. And thank you everybody for listening. And I'll see you next week.
Bye guys.
Boujee Bestie, thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Be sure to subscribe to my podcast so you never miss out. I release new episodes every Friday. If you love Boujee Best Friend, please leave a 5-star rating and a review. Your support means the world and it helps the show grow. You can also follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Coco Beauty, and you can find Boujee Best Friend on Apple, Spotify, and all other major podcasting platforms. Love you. Bye.